Joe Biden had one hell of an interview with Charlemagne the God at the Breakfast Club. Let me show you a clip of this very short interview, but this is the end of it where Joe Biden just, I don't know, really has no idea what the hell he's saying.
Well, I saw today that a news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And it's because they want your running mate to be a black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading black women voices in this country, and they feel since black women are such a loyal voting bloc and black people saved your political life in the primaries this year, they have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
You
Thanks so much. That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. Come on. Take a look at the record.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks. I will come back.
All right. Joe Biden is so bad at this. Does he really have no idea of the impact of his record when it comes to the crime bill, which I'll get to in a minute here? But even off just this quote, if you got a problem figuring out whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. Joe Biden telling black people that you're not black unless you vote for Joe Biden. Does he think this works? Is this going to reach the 40% of the country that doesn't normally vote because they see two parties representing wealthy interests, corporate interests? Two parties that are not offering universal health care, that are not offering higher wages, that are not offering any real help to people right now? Look, obviously, Trump is complete garbage. We all know that. But this being the alternative, Democrats win when turnout is high. This is not going to bring turnout. The only hope Joe Biden has is that there are enough people that are angry about Donald Trump that will come out to vote for Joe Biden simply to vote against Donald Trump, because Joe Biden is not offering people anything. But he talks about, well, I extended the Civil Rights Act. Well, thank you so much, Joe Biden, for acknowledging the existence of black people and having some rights. So amazing of you. I mean, totally ridiculous. Let's look at this. There's been many stories on this. I'll link to all of this below the video. Here's a New York Times piece from just last year. Quote, lock the SOBs up. Joe Biden and the era of mass incarceration. He now plays down his role overhauling crime laws with segregationist senators in the 80s and 90s. That portrayal today is at odds with his actions and rhetoric back then. Joe Biden has a long, horrible record on these issues. From Vox here. One of the most controversial criminal justice issues in the 2020 Democratic primary is a tough-on-crime law passed 25 years ago and authored by current poll frontrunner Joe Biden. If you ask some criminal justice reform activists, the 1994 crime law passed by Congress and signed by Bill Clinton, which was meant to reverse decades of rising crime, was one of the key contributors to mass incarceration in the 1990s. They say it led to more prison sentences, more prison cells, and more aggressive policing, especially hurting black and brown Americans who are disproportionately likely to be incarcerated. If you ask Biden, that's not true at all. The law, he argued at a recent campaign stop, had little impact on incarceration, which largely happens at the state level. As recently as 2016, Biden defended the law, arguing it restored American cities following an era of high crime and violence. Joe Biden is still defending the crime bill. He authored the crime bill. He is still defending it despite its obvious impact, looking at all the data out there on locking up black people. And it goes even deeper than this. So, look, I'm not going to read through this piece, but I suggest you do if you want to learn more about this. I'll link to it below the video. From The Intercept here, The Untold Story, Joe Biden pushed Ronald Reagan to ramp up incarceration, not the other way around. So this is a project that Joe Biden had been on for a couple decades before the crime bill. I mean, the crime bill essentially turned the Democratic Party into a tough on crime party in the same way that Republicans are. So back then there was this big debate. Democrats were always looked at as the weaker party in terms of crime. So Joe Biden led the effort to make them as terrible on this issue as Republicans are today. So it is just amazing that Joe Biden thinks he should be out there apologizing every single time for that vote and talking about how he's changed, how he, back then he was confused or whatever. Make some excuse up, but he can't even do that. He pretends his record is spotless. Nobody's better than me. He's marrying Trump at this point. Nobody has a better record on this issue than I do. Incredible. I also want to share a piece of Joy Reid, a thread she put out here. Look, I've been critical of Joy Reid in the past in terms of how she covers progressive politics and policies, but she had a great thread on this before this clip, but about this issue in general, tweeting out, "I'm astounded hearing the shushing rhetoric when it comes to demands by black women. Y'all realize that is the job of activism, right? To make demands of the politicians whom you can actually negotiate with. Who should folks make demands of? Honest question. I can assure you progressives are making demands of the Biden campaign. Environmentalists are, unions are, and some of y'all arguing in all seriousness that black voters, especially black women, who basically carry the party, must meekly ask for nothing." So it is, if you follow the campaign right now at all, are following this race at all, the only people that Joe Biden is listening to are never Trump Republicans. People like David Frum. I mean, this is the view that the Joe Biden campaign has. A very similar strategy to Hillary Clinton back in 2016, where instead of looking at, the 40% of the country that doesn't normally vote, or looking at progressives, looking at the black community, looking at environmentalists, instead of going to them and appealing to them and getting them excited out to vote, they're looking at the sliver, like 5% of Republicans that don't like Donald Trump and think that's the way to win. Now, the reality is, I'm not sure how much Joe Biden knows or doesn't know. I think, in all honesty, he's likely completely out of it. He has no idea what's going on. But the campaign and the Democratic leadership in general, for them, it really doesn't matter. The big fight was Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders was going to put a lot of these people in the Democratic Party leadership out of a job. The corporations would have lost control of the party. The wealthiest Americans that control the party right now would have lost control of the party. Current leadership like Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Tom Perez would have been gone. So that was the real fight. When it comes to November, if Joe Biden loses, these people in Joe Biden's campaign and the Democratic leadership are still going to have a job. They're still going to maintain control of the party. So nothing fundamentally changes for them. Win or lose, look, obviously they prefer to win, obviously. But even if they lose, they still retain control of the party. They still have a job. They still get to push for the same issues they've been pushing for the past 30, 40 years. Joe Biden needs to do a much better job at appealing to all these communities. And I mean, especially on this issue in the black community, he is just completely out of his element.